classes, social slime, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one leaves countries, laugh to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter, genocide. Sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear, fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids. No one leaves countries, lie to your face, fight and die, 'cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens, and this is Game On. It's the September the 8th, 2015, and we're going to try and stay on air here. We got a bit of a storm moving in, so if I disappear, the internet, which the whole New World Order or world government is hinging its hopes on, if it goes down, I'm gone. And sometimes I think about this internet thing. I know Rockefeller wanted to shut it down or greatly restrict it. They've restricted it a lot. But hinging your whole plan on digital is not, where I'm coming from, very bright. Because the idea was that if the system goes down here, then it can be rerouted through there. Well, you ain't got no power. You ain't rerouting anything anywhere. So that's the other problem, though. The other problem with it is that they can disrupt with the use of the internet at any time they want. They can shut an entire city down. Because the internet's running the hydro systems now. It's running the water systems. It's running the food systems. So, with really the flick of a switch, they could take a whole city down. And trust me, they're going to do it somewhere down the road. And it's going to get ugly. Because, any given town or city only has max 3 days supply of food and water generally. So, all they have to do is pull the plug for 4 or 5 days, and probably less than that, because people get excited probably after day 1 or 2. And somebody will say, oh my God, they're running out of bread at the store, and all hell's going to break loose. And, I do believe that if you look at New Orleans, the way they locked those poor buggers down in New Orleans, I do believe that part of that was to get some data, if you will. These are real data hounds, how people react if they're locked down. And they were locked down. There was no reason for it. They could have got the food in there. They could have got the supplies in there. They could have got those people the hell out of there. But if there isn't a natural crisis, well, we'll create one. So they had a crisis, and they played it to their advantage. So, hopefully we're on for the hour, and Rockefeller's dream doesn't go blip. anyways, I may be the only one that doesn't know what I'm about to talk to you about right now. It blows me away. I've been researching stuff for like ever. And, I never spent that much time at the Vatican. I left that crap up to Alex Jones and the boys. So, I looked at it, and we know that all roads lead to Rome. That's pretty simple to understand. But it looked at the Jesuits, looked at the Jesuit oaths and all that kind of stuff. And if you haven't read the Jesuit oath, go look it up. I'm not sure if it's real or not. It's probably real, but I don't have anything to make a determination on that. Some people say it's real, some people say it doesn't. But it's a Jesuit oath, and it stands to reason that this would probably be real. And if you go through that, you get an understanding pretty quickly that you can pretty much attach the Muslim or Islam to the Jesuits and back to the Vatican and back to the Catholic Church. Some pretty wicked people in there. Anyways, I ran across this thing last night. Somebody put it in Facebook, and I'd never seen it before. And I go, what the hell is this? And we know that the Vatican, the lights are blinking, so cross your fingers. Anyways, the Vatican's as evil as hell. But I came across this thing called The Resurrection by Fassini. And this is way strange. Just let me see what they say here. The Resurrection is an 800 quintal, 8 metric ton bronze copper alloy sculpture by Percelli Fassini in the Paul VI Audience Hall in Rome, intended to capture the anguish of 20th century mankind living under the threat of nuclear war. It depicts Jesus rising from a nuclear crater in the Garden of Gethsemane. Its dimensions are 66 feet by 23 feet. The commission of the work was ordered by Count Galassi in 1965. Casting began in 1972. The final sketch was produced in 75, and the work was completed and inaugurated in September 28, 77. Now, I think the Pope is going to be here from the 22nd to 27th. I believe that's when he's here. So he is not going to be here, from what I understand, on the 28th. So I don't know what this really has to do with the Pope coming. But if you haven't seen this thing, when I first looked at the picture of it, I thought, well, that doesn't really look like anything I've ever seen that's supposed to look like Jesus. And why would Jesus be resurrected from a nuclear blast site hole? That makes no sense whatsoever. The gates of hell are supposed to open or something, so are these the guys that are going to open it? Because we know they're Luciferian. We know that they are all into, they're into staring at the sky all the time. I don't know if they're waiting for Jesus to come back, or they're waiting for an alien to show up, or what it is. But these guys ain't running out of the Bible, I'll tell you that for sure. You look at these people. You look at all these popes and all their people. I mean, they're ugly as hell. They look sinister. They never really look happy. And they're doing the work of the other side. And the other side is coming to America on the 22nd. And he's going to spread his word. And so everybody needs to be aware. Actually, what the American people should do, just go to the airport and not let the sucker off the plane. You know, plain and simple. You ain't welcome. Get out of here. You know, and it rides exactly what I've been saying for as long as I can remember. Constitution has to go down the tubes, and you listen to what's in that, or read what's in that, and then put that up against Islam, and you might wonder, you might know real quick why we have this flood of Muslims coming into the West and throughout the European countries. It's a plan, folks. It's a plan. So, anyways, this. If you don't know about this, I'm just going to dump this. I don't know where this is from, this particular. This site is called Exposing the Martyrs in Vatican II. So I don't know whose site it is, but it's got a pretty good picture of this resurrection. And take a boo at that. Because when I first looked at it, I thought, man, why does that look like a snake's head or something? No, we had David Icke and all these guys talking about, holy crap, is it raining? Sorry for that. Holy lifting. Wow. Hope the trees stay up. Huh. Anyways. But when I first looked at the picture, I thought that really, really, really doesn't look like anything like Jesus. And when I looked at the one picture, not the one I'm about to put in, but when I looked at another picture, when I blew it up a little bit, I saw the same thing this guy saw. And that's the head of a snake, or a reptile, or whatever Icke and the boys are talking about. So that's really strange stuff to see that, and it's been around since 1977. And for some reason, I never heard of it before, and neither did the guy that put it in Facebook last night. He never heard of it before either. He just stumbled across it, and it's pretty wicked stuff. So it's what it is, and we need to. And I don't know how you're going to do that. I really don't know how you're going to do that. I grew up in the church, and by the time I was 12 or 13, I was starting to walk out of sermons. Something didn't set right at all. And the problem with the Christian faith, if you will, is that if there's a more deceived group of people, I don't know who they are. They got really no fight in them. They really don't have any fight in them. They are the flock, and they go to the churches, and the priest or the preacher or the pastor or whatever they're called in a particular congregation, they go there once a week for an hour or so and sit down, and it's basically entertainment for them. They go there, they meet. I was asked to come back to the church later on, and the gist of that was it's a good place to make business connections and that. Kind of like the Masonic lodges and that. So, I didn't go back, but I do talk to preachers once in a while, and try to explain to them that they're really either not that bright and they've been deceived, they don't understand they've been deceived, or as a preacher, you didn't read the Bible. Okay? And one, you're not supposed to worship false idols, which is the state. You're not supposed to have any respect for the person of which you are. So how do you, if you can't get to the preachers, how do you get to the average man or woman in a congregation? How do you get to these people? I mean, what is it? It's a high 70% of Americans claim to be Christian. But if you take the truth and you drop it right in front of their lap, they don't get it. They cover their ears and they run away. When I'm on Facebook and different, when I'm rooting around, I run into this, Republicans for Christ. Christian Republicans. Well, what's that supposed to mean? Right? That's hyphenating stuff. Hyphenating stuff just changes it. I don't know anywhere, and I've never read the Bible. I've read bits and bobs of it, but, I'm sure there's nothing in there that says to be a Christian, you must also be a conservative. I don't think that's in there. So you have these Christians fighting amongst themselves. Well, you're a dumb liberal Christian. I'm a conservative Christian. Well, you're not going to find that in the Bible. So the churches themselves and the politics themselves have divided the people. The people have no idea what's being taught to them in the churches or what they're supposed to believe from in the churches. They're all teaching now stewardship. We have to be good stewards of the land. That's Agenda 21. Well, no, it's not Agenda 21. Well, they wouldn't teach that in the church. Well, surprise. The churches were taken over way, way long time ago. And in particular, the UN agenda started moving through the churches probably before the war. And definitely started pushing the ecology movement in high gear in early 1960s. So are all these preachers just stupid? Are all these preachers Jesuits? Because if you look at the Jesuit oath, you're supposed to be like a chameleon. They're supposed to be like chameleons. They're supposed to infiltrate the schools, and they're supposed to infiltrate the universities. Well, we have Jesuit universities all over the place. They're supposed to infiltrate the church. And I haven't read that oath in years, but there was one in there about, you're to become preachers and stand at the pulpit and preach from the Bible, even though you want everybody in the congregation dead as infidels, basically, because they're Luciferian. Well, if you look at what the Islam wants to kill all the infidels. So, I'm sure if we did some research on it, we would be able to find out that Islam is a creation of the Catholic Church, or Rome, or the Vatican, whichever. They're all the same damn thing anyways. So that's enough of that for now. This is research again. I had a listener from UCY TV, and I thank her for it. sent me a video that had to do with the new sex ed curriculum in Ontario. Now, because people have forgotten how to stand up, some people are protesting. They don't want their children abused in this way. But they'll bow down, and then the schools want to bring in the 100% vaccination rule, where your child can't come to school. And the parents will bow down to that, for the most part. And the few that try to stand their ground are going to be bastardized. So, you know, it's all been a long training program for people and parents. It really makes me want to throw up, actually. But this is about what happens when people grab a piece of information that sounds good and don't research it. Now, this particular video, I gotta go back and find it here quickly. Okay, so this outfit is called 11 Minutes. And she sent me a video with Rod Galatica. And he rattles on about the sex ed curriculum that they're going to shove down everybody's throat here in Ontario. And when I was listening to it, he's doing this like he's a very concerned man and family man, and he's concerned for the kids and the grandkids, which is all well and good, as he should be. But when I'm listening to it, I'm going to throw this in, and you can listen to it if you're not aware of what our sex ed in Ontario, who our lesbian premier's all jacked up about. You can listen to it. But when you listen to the video, it becomes very apparent very quickly that this guy doesn't have a very good understanding of what he's talking about. He's talking about, which always seems to happen, and it continues to this day, is shining the light on a particular political party who is in power at the time. And it's their fault. Now, the conservatives wouldn't do that. These are liberals. So it's a liberal problem. It's not a conservative problem. The fact is, the conservatives would implement the very same thing if they were in power, because they do the dictate of the UN. And we talked about the UN sex ed there a show or two ago. And so he completely misses the point. So now we have another guy that's either completely ignorant. I mean, I understand what he's trying to say, but he doesn't seem to have any knowledge, to any background knowledge. He's just pointing at a political party or a leader, as we've been stuck with for as long as I can remember. People hate Obama. And, Bush wouldn't have done that. Well, give me a break. Two wings, one bird, flying the same place, and you don't want to land at the destination. You just don't want to get to that destination. So we continue to this day. So when someone puts something like this out, then I got to go check it out. And it takes me time. And it irritates the hell out of me. But it's got to get done. So I go check this guy out. Now, he mentioned his other YouTube. So when I went to see that, it turns out the guy is a shooting teacher. Okay, so he's a shooter. And he's in Canada, and he's talking about gun rights, and that's all well and good. But everything on his other website or other YouTube site, there is nothing on there about anything political other than guns. That's it. Every video on there is about guns. And the right to have guns and the right to use guns, which I got no problem with. But how's this guy that's stuck on guns end up with this new show called 11 Minutes talking about sex ed? What does he know about it? So I got rooting around at this guy. If I can, I hope I didn't turn all these things out. Okay, so I tracked this guy down in Abbotsford, BC. And he is the National Firearms Association. He's vice president. Okay, so what's he up to? Why is he doing these videos? So you get looking around at this guy. It just happened to be, and he was right on this stuff, this Ben Levin guy who was the interim guy setting this sex ed thing up, and that is in jail right now for child porn. And he was the guy that was, right at the top of the education thing. And he's in jail now for child porn. But they're going to push ahead with the sex ed because it is so very, very important, and it's for the safety, again, of the children. Well, it's not about the safety of the children at all. It's part of the, you might as well just call it the Vatican agenda. Okay, because Vatican and UN and all those guys are all in the same house. So they're just called the Vatican agenda. And so I find this guy, I get rooting around on this guy. Now he's bitching and complaining about the sex ed. And he's bitching about, remember, he's bitching about a political party. Now, the political parties really they are there to protect the state. So I find this guy at a place called the GCCBC, which is the Green Chamber of Commerce. I didn't know there was such a thing. We have a Chamber of Commerce, but now it's a Green Chamber of Commerce. It's a not-for-profit provincial organization that was founded in 2012. We are currently endorsed by Mechanical Contractors Association and are modeled after the United States and San Francisco Bay Area-based Green Chamber of Commerce. Okay, so everything in North America that has anything to do with environment or changing society has always been coming out of California. And that's where they signed the United Nations. It was in California. So everything comes out of there. Okay? The war machine, financial machine comes out of DC, but this whole environmental thing comes out of California. So anyways, this guy who's complaining about the kids being taught sex ed, and he's so concerned about that, this same guy is part of this Green Chamber of Commerce. And Sustainable, Social, and Innovative Actors, Sustainable Lending Pilot Project, and yada, 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 yada. And this is what he's into. Now, I click on here, I got the issue 29, September 2014, the Green Chamber of Commerce BC newsletter, issued September 29th, with Van City, which is a credit union, which I looked into years ago, and they're up to their behinds in this. And it says here, Lead Canada. Have you heard of Lead Canada? Lead Canada has won 13 LEAD member programs around the world. LEAD was founded in 1991 as an initiative of the Rockefeller Foundation. One of the largest and oldest private charitable organizations in the world dedicating to building leadership capacity for sustainable development. The idea of LEAD grew out of discussions between the Rockefeller Foundation and Grow Harlem Brundtland, who brought us Our Common Future, which was a prelude to Agenda 21. Now, this guy who is complaining about sex ed in the schools is completely up to his armpits in promoting Agenda 21. And where did Agenda 21 come from? The United Nations and their friends. And where did the sex ed come from? The United Nations and their friends. And this is what happens so often. People got to get by politics. Politics is there in your democracy. Democracy is to keep the commoners divided while the real players in the background initiate their agendas, which is put into play through the legislatures. So it has really nothing to do with the politicians other than they're doing the bidding of those who are trying to take the West down, take the world down. They've taken most of the world down, and they're coming after us. And they're very close to getting us because they permeated through all of society over the years. And everybody, not everybody, but not the UCY TV people, they get it. But this is how people, so this guy's yammering on about this. So I put a note on his YouTube. I haven't heard back from him. I was going to call him today, but I didn't have time. Because I really like to talk to him to see if he runs. If he runs, he's controlled opposition and a player. That's the real giveaway. They don't want to discuss it. They just want to get the hell away from you. So I haven't had. So maybe he's just completely ignorant. And maybe he thinks he's doing a good thing by being involved in this Green Chamber of Commerce thing. He's not. And that's unfortunate because he'll continue to go out there and talk about subjects, and he will continue to attach a political party to it. And people will watch it and go, yeah, them damn liberals, look what they're doing to the kids in the school. Well, where did that come from is the answer, or is the question, but people don't get there. They don't get to that question. They've been so tangled up in this political thing their entire lives, they can't see beyond it. And that works just fine for the people who are actually working the show in the background. Works perfect for them. So, if you see something and it perks your interest, be sure to do the background checks. You have to do the background checks, or you're just going to get caught up in the same nonsense, the same political nonsense. And that's what it is. It's nonsense. Now, I had a friend over here today. Actually, Angus was by today. And we were talking. I was supposed to go to the police board hearing tomorrow, but that's not going to happen. So we talked about it a bit, and we decided we both go in October, which is going to be a lot of fun. And because the last time I went, the chief and the staff sergeant didn't have the nerve to come in, which was kind of odd because I was at the police board meeting, and the only thing missing was the police. They didn't show up. Chickens. They stayed outside in their car till I left. Then they run in and see what I had to say. And then shortly thereafter, the chief disappeared. Shortly after that, the sergeant disappeared. Those are the ones that were supposed to be at the hearing. So that was kind of interesting. But the The chief has since retired, and the staff sergeant has returned as the chief. Just kind of vanished out of the area for a while, right? And so we'll go there in October and have some fun with them, see what's cooking. But where was I going with that? We were talking... I lost my train of thought there. Anyways, another thing I ran into today when I was doing some research on statutes and all that kind of stuff, I ran into a thing in a legal dictionary called mortmain. Mortmain. Now I know what mortgage is, but I never actually heard of this mortmain thing before. So I got looking at it, and we're in is a rebranded feudal system. You got to understand that. That's exactly what we're in. Only those in the feudal system actually had it better than us, if you can believe that. Because in the feudal system, the king or queen would grant you land. Okay? And I suppose you could probably put that down like a land patent. I'm not exactly sure if it's identical, but it sounds pretty damn similar. So you didn't go buy a chunk of ground, and you don't buy one today because the crown never relinquishes ownership. But back then they had land grants, and the king would grant you some land to use, and for that you would pay a fee, not unlike the taxes that you pay today. But you didn't have a 30-year mortgage to deal with. Okay, you just got the land, and you got the use of it, but the king, queen always retained ownership of it. And so now, today, you still don't buy the land. You buy a bundle of rights for the use of the land, and then you pay taxes on the property. They call it land tax, property tax, but property is just a fictional thing. And it's a bundle of rights. And so now you have to buy the property. So you go out and you get a mortgage from the bank, and then the lawyer sticks his hand out because you got to pay him to do the paperwork. And then you pay and pay and pay and pay and pay and pay and pay for the purchase of this bundle of rights, but you still pay the property tax, the water bills, and everything else is attached to it. So, in that sense, the old feudal system was better on the people than the feudal system that we have today. An interesting thing is that if there had been no lawyers, there would be no such thing as property. Because without law, property doesn't exist. Because it was the law, the lawyers, the schemers, the liars, who dreamt up the idea of property. It's fictional. And so without that law that came from the lawyers, property doesn't exist. It cannot exist without the law. And that's what it states. So we've been badly hoodwinked here. And so anyways, I don't know how much time I get. I get a little bit of time here. Maybe we can get through some of this stuff. If I can find where I was. And see, it's important to be honest. Very important to be honest. Last night, some guy put a thing up one of the mimes, and it was a saying from John Cleese talking about, if you think you're intelligent but you're really stupid, then how do you know you're intelligent if you're stupid and this and that and whatever? It was just one of his things that he said. And so I just put a little note in there. I said, because this guy was all happy about it. He's a liberal. And he was all happy about it. And I said, I don't think you got what he's saying. If you reread this, he's actually calling you the idiot. And I said, that makes sense because Cleese was a lawyer, or is a lawyer. And this guy wrote me back and he said, Cleese from Fawlty Towers? And then it dawned on me. Now, I remember seeing an interview years ago with John Cleese, and I was certain he said he was a barrister. So after I'd made my remark, I could have left it at that. But now I'm questioning myself. So I have to go back and I have to search out John Cleese and I have to go and find out, is this guy a lawyer? Because I was certain he was a lawyer. And when I go through all his stuff, I find out that he's actually not a lawyer. He had thought about becoming a lawyer and then decided against it. But he does study law. I do know that. And so I had to go back and find this guy and put the fact in that I was wrong. But during my research on Cleese, I did find out that John Cleese did a video with Prince Charles back in the early 90s promoting the green movement and sustainable development. So Cleese isn't a lawyer, that's correct, but hanging out with Prince Charles, doing videos, promoting their agenda, which is worse, being a lawyer or promoting these clowns' agenda? Probably pretty close to each other. But we need to be as correct as we possibly can. And, I live by a rule of my own, and that is prove me wrong. Well, last night, I had the opportunity to prove myself wrong. But it's important that you do that. Okay? That's the only way we can get people to understand truth, is that you have to be able to accept that you were wrong. And that's what kills me about people. When you give them the truth, and that's psychological again, and they've proven it, and they use it, that if they can get you to believe their lie, then it becomes very difficult for your mind to throw the lie out and accept the truth. Whoever's in the head first has a better shot at it. And it works in business just as well. If and I used to tell my people that, first one in. The first one in has the best chance of getting the deal if you make your presentation properly. Because everything that happens after that, everything they hear after that, is based on what you said first. So if you present yourself as honest, which you better be, and you make a proper presentation, and I don't care what you're doing, if you're doing renovations or selling or whatever, I don't care. But honesty is always top. Because if you're honest, and you explain it honestly, then everybody that comes after you, what they say is gauged upon what you said first. And this is and that's not a lie in that case. But it is in a way propaganda because you're moving something forward. But when the media and that get the population as a whole to believe a lie, and they present it as they're being honest, and of course they care, and the people have been subjected to this propaganda machine for so long that they accept what the media says, because the media is set up so you say, oh, I don't know about that. So they go and watch another channel or read a different paper, and that media is saying the same thing. And maybe the wife or somebody watches a talk show and it's saying the same thing, and then you click on your favorite sitcom and that same thing seems to have worked its way into your sitcom. And pretty soon, they got you. And you've accepted that as the truth. Which it's not. But you've accepted it. So everything that comes after that is gauged upon your accepted truth. And that's what makes it hard for everybody that's trying to wake people up. Because they haven't heard it from the ones they feel gave them the truth first. So it's very easy for those who lied to the public to say, oh, those are conspiracy theorists. You don't want to listen to them. They got that fool shit off the internet somewhere. You don't want to listen to those people. No, they're all crackers. Listen to us. We're the smiling talking heads. Listen to us. You know? And it's amazing. You know, I don't have a TV, haven't had one in years, but you just be able to flip around, you know, and it's like you could almost, I don't know if they do this on purpose or what, but if you're watching the news channel and you flip from one this newscaster just says this, and then you flip the next channel and this one's in the middle of what you just listened to or just starting what you just listened to, and you flip around, bang, 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 bang. Doesn't matter where you go, you're getting the message. So it does make it very difficult, and it has been extraordinarily difficult, and it has really knocked a lot of really good people down, you know, like they're talking to a wall or a box of rocks all the time because you can't get people to even look at the truth. Well, I want to take my hat off to all those who have stuck with it. Because, you know, it's a long haul. Didn't get us here overnight. It's a very tough job trying to change the mindset of an entire population. That's tough work. Trying to change the mindset of 3 people is tough work. But it's work that has to be done. You know, so, you know, I really do appreciate all those good people out there who have researched so hard, so long, talked so much. And I'm sure all have said at one point or another. I mean, I remember Bill Cooper watching a video of his, and he was just basically throwing his hands up in the air. You know, he basically, you know, every dime he gets is put towards what he was doing. That's trying to get the truth out. And, you know, he would do a talk, and people would sit there and kind of listen, but didn't activate them. It was like going to church kind of thing. You just go sit there for an hour and go, oh, that was wonderful, thank you very much, and then go home, and then turn on the TV and get the propaganda coming at you again. A very, very difficult job that's being done by some very, very good people. And we're going to just keep on doing it. And we're going to keep on encouraging people to do it. You know, like I was talking to Angus today, we were talking about going to the August police board hearing, and he says, well, is that really worth going to? Like, do they have reporters in that there? No, they don't, because they don't send reporters because they wouldn't have anything to report, because if they reported anything, they would be shining a light on the corruption. So, no, they don't send a reporter there. Well, what's the point then? Well, the point is that we get to go there and sit down face to face with some people who either know they're corrupt or don't know they're corrupt, but they're in a corrupt business, and they hurt people. Every time a policeman pulls somebody over, they hurt them if that person hasn't caused any harm. So I said, this is the brilliant, and Angus's dad was a police chief from the old school, and they finally, it was the Masons that ran him out finally. He was more of a Andy Griffith kind of guy, and they ran him out after years of being chief. But they tracked that right back down to the Masons in the town he was from that actually ran a good man out. They don't want any good men, and they'll do everything they can in their power to run them out. So, no, like I told Angus, I said, we'll go there and we'll have some fun. Because if you remember back in the day, your dad probably had one of them super long flashlights that held, 2,000 batteries or whatever the hell you put in them things. We get them there. They can't go anywhere, and surely, hopefully, they'll show up this time and not sit outside in their squad car. But hopefully they make an appearance. But they're already fearful because they can't stand the light of the truth. And we have an obligation to bring that light to them and shine it on them. So, people need to go to I know it's a pain. I know it's a thankless job. It's an irritation. I get all of that stuff. But you got to go to your local council meetings. You got to voice some stuff, and the same thing with the police boards. You need to go to these things to, have a chat with these folks. Clue them in. Here's reality, folks. And you need to deal with it. So, because you see, if we don't shine the light on them and engage them, then they just continue to do what they're doing in the dark. They live in the shadows. Most people don't have a clue what any city council's doing. People need to learn what they're up to. Figure out why they're up to it. Well, you don't have to figure it out. Just listen to the show. You'll figure it out. You'll get told. But they're up to no bloody good. But if people don't go in there and challenge them and shine the light on them, then they feel free to keep on going. And it's the old thing, it's almost like consent. Well, nobody came and told us that we shouldn't be doing this, so we just kept doing it. It didn't seem like any was upsetting anybody. And we're charged by the state or the province to do this at the local level, so if nobody brings anything to our attention, what are we supposed to do about it? We figure you're all happy. So in a way, it's sort of a consenting thing that if we don't go there and engage them, and the more people that go, the more fearful they get, because then they know that and once they know they can't operate with impunity. They can't do it. Okay? Now they got to get sneakier. Right? And eventually, their moral fiber is going to start knocking one in the head. It's like them, the cartoon, I don't know what cartoon it was. There was a cartoon a long time ago, I don't know, Bugs Bunny or what the hell it was, but they used to have they had an angel on the guy's shoulder. He's trying to make a decision about something, and they got an angel on one side and a devil on the other side. And the angel was being very quiet about it, so, oh no, you shouldn't do that, it's a bad thing. And the devil's quite bold. Yeah, come on, it's good, it's for your benefit. Rah, rah, rah. So there's that struggle. And that struggle exists in the minds of your council members. It does exist in the police, whether they don't want to admit it or not. But if we don't bring the moral position to them, then they don't have to deal with it. And I brought this up before. Law is moral. Legal is what the police deal with, and your council deals with, and it's all lawyer created. Legal wouldn't exist without them damn lawyers. is amoral. So you have an amoral council, you have an amoral police force, and you wonder why they're doing what they're doing? Okay, we got to get the morals back in their face. We have to make them morally responsible as men and women. We got to get them away from this idea of the actor that they are in this amoral world that they operate in. So we have to bring them back onto the moral floor. Okay, and the easiest way to do that is talk to them. Is to talk to them. And when you're talking to them, you know, you can in your mind, because I'm a firm believer that it works, a lot of things work better if you visualize what you're doing. And, you know, when you're talking to them, just think of that big, you know, bright flashlight with all the batteries in it. You know, when you're talking to them, you've got them in the spotlight. They know it and you know it. And mentally, it's more fun if you can visualize that spotlight on their faces while you're talking. You don't have to yell at them. All you have to do is be logical with them, and use the truth. And you got them. And the beauty is, once you put something in somebody's head, that's psychology again. Once you put it in their head, it's impossible for them to get it out. And that's why you find your police forces are, what would you call it? They're almost held in solitary confinement, and the same as your councils. Okay, they are like a closed system, and the only information they get comes from the system to them, which controls them. You don't have any input in there. So they end up saying, well, I'm just doing what I'm told. Well, that ain't no good neither. So we need to tell them something else. Because if you don't tell them, then they can't respond to it. But again, once you get that into their heads, some truth into their heads, they have to think about it. And they can't get rid of it. So, you know, we're not going to win this thing by shoot-em-ups. You know, the people that control the world are chickens. They're the guys that in the schoolyard, they ain't going to get in a scrap with you, that run to the teacher. These are the people that run the world. They're chickens. They hide in the dark. They scheme. They're not men. You know, but what they've done with the men is they basically, you know, mentally and chemically castrated them. You know, think about the old cowboy movies and that, and the old movies from the Depression, where some kids at home, his mom and dad are out, and some kid's at home, and he walks up the laneway with a rifle or a shotgun because some people are coming into the yard. And the kid's like 10, 12 years old. Does he run and hide? Of course not. He walks up the laneway. And he said, what's your business? Where's your mom and dad? Well, I'm looking after them while we're gone. What's your business? And that kid was more a man at 10 or 12 years old than most men are today. Anyways, that's my message for today. We're out of time. Back to Thursday night at 7 o'clock. I want to thank all listeners. I want to thank staff, particularly thank Jules. And everybody take care, and God willing, God be good. Bye-bye. No one makes countries lie to your face.